Welcome and good morning. We're going to kick off today's seminar. It's 9:32 here, so thank you for joining us. I see a few more people are popping in our attendance count, but I do want to respect everyone's time today. So my name is Jason Trombley. I am an instructor here at NWTC in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I teach in trades and engineering, and I'm part of our Industry 4.0 development team, which focuses a lot on data analytics, cybersecurity, AR, VR, and additive manufacturing. So if you've attended any of our previous seminars, we covered some of those subjects, and we've got one more coming up here we'll talk about in a little bit. Additive manufacturing in April. So I'd like to start by thanking our guests for joining us and our speakers. We've got a really exciting group today. Hope to have some great conversation, questions and answers as well for our speakers. And that can be found if you're new to Teams in the Q&A up on the right-hand corner of your screen. I did post a link for a post survey. So if you would, our team would greatly appreciate it if you would take a couple minutes and fill out the survey for our seminar today. You'll also get that as a follow-up email as well. So recording today. We are recording today's seminar, so for those of you that have to go or teammates that were unable to attend, we will send that recording out as a link as well after today's seminar. So again, thank you for joining us. Today, we are talking about augmented and virtual reality and how it is affecting our industry, how it's improving our processes. We've got some great speakers that are going to talk on behalf of that on both the manufacturing side and the construction side. So I'm super excited to have both industries represented here today with our panelists. One note for housekeeping, we unfortunately, our original keynote speaker was unable to attend today's events due to unexpected circumstances, and graciously Hector has taken the lead and will be our first presenter today. So thank you, Hector, for that. And Casey and Emmy and Mike will be following up after our keynote today. Good morning, Hector.
Good morning, Jason. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here. Thank you to all who are attending this conversation. Thank you to all the panelists. I'm so excited to talk about this topic, and I'm a big fan of these technologies. How can augmented reality, how can virtual reality can improve the way people engage with information? And this will be the main topic of my conversation, right? So I'm sharing it right now my screen. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A section of the Teams, and I will gladly help you to resolve any doubts you may have. And by the way, today is February 14th. What a better way to show that you care by sharing knowledge, right? So let's start with this. And without further ado, again, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate your interest in this conversation. My name is Hector Jimenez. I'm based in Mexico City, and I work for Rockwell Automation. I've been working for Rockwell Automation for about 4 years. And before that, I worked for another technology company that is PTC. With this background, I've been able to work with augmented reality technologies and move forward into other extended reality solutions, right? So today's conversation will be about how can we focus that energy? How can we work with this technology into making people's lives easier within the industries on how as I was telling you, how we share, how we interact with information, how we make better decisions and intelligent decisions by having the information in front of me, right? So this is the agenda for today's conversation. I will try to be very punctual with each part, and I hope you find this interesting. At the end, we're trying to make this easy to understand, make you feel interested on implementing this technology, experimenting with this technology, and at the end, on the work field as part of the workforce or leading a workforce, we will be able to choose between these solutions and make people's lives easier, right? So let's begin. First things first, the long and winding road of digital transformation. I would like to say that when we talk about digital transformation with our customers, it's an easy topic to discuss, but really it isn't. Sometimes we think about digital transformation as something ethereal, something that cannot be touched, or is only data floating on top of our heads. But that's not really the case. We use that data, you use that information, we take advantage of that information. But first, we need to consider three fundamental pillars. Okay, so before we begin choosing our solutions or starting doing some AR experiences or ML modeling, we need to consider these elements. First off, the assets on which we take that information, we extract that information and make it useful. Then the processes on which we're trying to improve, make it better for our users. And talking about users, on top of it all, there are the people. Without the people using the information, without the people using that technology, we're practically lost because they need to get used to that information, to that solution. They need to get used to changing the way they did things. And maybe they feel comfortable with one thing, but now we will make them feel more comfortable because we are using the right data for the specific role. Okay, these three pillars. That these three pillars build the digital transformation strategy that we're trying to push as part of an organization. Okay. Now, because of this, we need to consider that the potential of digital transformation is clear, right? We are looking at percentages and numbers and money saved, time saved, a shorter changeover, etc. But at the end, we have real use cases with our customers in food and beverage, in mining, in life sciences that are implementing digital transformation technologies in order to make their lives easier, in order to improve the way they do things, and of course, impacting on the business. Right, making their machines more available, making their users more comfortable with what they do, more secure, of course. But this is just an example of the numbers that we can find when implementing digital transformation technologies. The thing is, the early adopters are surging ahead. Let's be honest. Augmented reality, it's not such a really new topic. However, the way we implement it in the industries is a little bit new. And if you talk about my personal experience, if we talk about my personal experience in the area in which I developed a business, then yeah, it's newer than other places in the world. However, when we have these early adopters, these people are surging ahead. They're finding benefits of implementing the digital transformation technologies in a way that they can take information, identify their areas of opportunity, finding a return of investment, and at the end, benefiting the businesses they work in. So for people who are trying to develop technology for these industries, in the case of making information clearer, information more useful, information easier to obtain, we need to reimagine our ambitions. What do we see as our potential? And when I talk about potential, this maybe we will think that's something related to industry or a customer. But we, as innovators, as engineers, as technical people, we always try to reimagine our ambition, get the latest of our technology, and make it work to our benefit, right? What is our digital potential? What can we take advantage of? Create machine learning models, create augmented reality experiences. All those things can be placed into something useful for the society itself, right? The people who work, people who can take benefit of what we create, and how can we take these solutions for our own knowledge? And what's holding me back? how can I get this technology? How can I work with information? How can we create something from scratch? Maybe something that's already been built for a specific use case. All those things will have an answer today, and I hope that at the end, maybe with this conversation with all the speakers, information that they will share with you, you will find something useful for your next endeavor. Right? The first thing when we talk about extended reality, augmented reality, is where's my knowledge? And I would like to make a pause here and just to say that when I talk about extended reality, I'm considering the fact that when we're using something that enhances the information, sometimes it's just placing something in a physical space. Sometimes all the things are virtual. Maybe sometimes it's just looking at an image in front of me without having a printed element. So that's why I'm talking about extended reality. It's a big spectrum within the extended reality area that we need to consider, from augmented to virtual to the real physical space. So that's why I'm doing this differentiation between extended and augmented reality. So let's move on. Where's my knowledge? I was telling you. I will focus on some industrial use cases that we happen to find every time we talk with customers. The first thing is how knowledge leaves the organization. Sometimes people retire. Sometimes people find a new job, and with that they live with the knowledge. And when they live with the knowledge, the new workers or the old workers who depended on the people who retired cannot find that information to do the work they need to do in a good way, right? So the next thing is the information that we have. Sometimes it's printed in heavy tomes, and maybe these heavy tomes are outdated, or maybe something even worse. The information is placed, not only the tomes on the books, it's in a sheet of paper, it's in a blackboard that's been erased. I don't know. All these informations require a unique repository so everyone can consult it every time they want, right? The next thing is that our users, the organizations, would love to have all their processes working correctly, everything at full capacity, their quality inspections passing every time, their production running smoothly, all things that we might consider the dream. Sometimes happens that every week or every 2 days we find an issue. The quality inspections are not quite correct. The production stopped because we couldn't finish a service or maintenance procedure because we didn't have the proper information. All things are working at minimum capacity. And finally, the changeover. When we talk about changeover, we're talking about how can we change the configuration of our machines and considering the recipes for different products and different configurations of products. And it takes some time to stop the process, change the configuration needed, and then move on to the new configuration for these different products, this different line of product. In this case, this slide shows you that it's taking like about 15 minutes to do the changeover. But what if it was shorter time? What if we could use this time to make something more productive? If we consider that this doesn't happen just one time in the week, or maybe we need to do several changeovers during the day, this time gets summed up, and you get more and more time lost, and impacts directly in costs. So as you might see, it's always incredible to create elements that are virtual, elements that will help us identify how can we work with augmented reality. But the things you create, the things that you're going to do as a student, as an engineer, can benefit to these kinds of issues, right? And we have to identify these pains and make it work for all the people, for other organizations, once you're considering to move into this kind of technology. So we need to break down the industrial skills gap, because these issues and mostly because of the lack of information, we're having a huge skills gap currently. During these years, we're having people who are retiring, as I was telling you, ineffective traditional training methods, like, as I was telling you, the outdated books, the over-the-shoulder training, and whatnot, the negative perceptions of industrial work, which I wish there weren't, but there is, like thinking that this is a dirty, dangerous job, not very not technologically advanced enough for me, etc., etc. Things that need to disappear, of course. The current frontline worker information is insufficient to their needs, to their security, to the way they see the information, to the way they feel secure by using the tools and elements that they use to complete a task. And finally, the things that have been happening during these 2-3 years with the pandemic, the way we work now, sometimes it gets difficult to work directly or live in person with another colleague, and we need to find a way to help them solve some issues without trying to be on site. Right? Remote working has been moving forward since the pandemic, and sometimes it's easy to have these teams meeting, but what happens when you need to have full-fledged instructions without having the expert right in front of you or next to you, right? These are things that we need to tackle using this kind of technology, these kind of extended reality technologies. So these things considered happen to impact the way markets are facing greater pressure. The growing worker skills gap that I was telling you about, the increasing product and process complexity. We're always evolving, the technology is evolving, and because of that, we need to find a way to make the learning curve shorter to tackle these new technologies, and in the end, evolving the customer demands. The customers, or us as customers as well, we need things faster, we need things easier, and we need things with a higher quality. Okay. So where do I begin? All these things lead us on how we interact with information, how we share knowledge, and how can we access knowledge in an easy way. Because as I was telling you 2 or 3 slides before, traditional work and instructions methods fall short. We are having this product complexity growing, the time and cost of training, the way we share information that maybe it's not really updated, or the person who's the expert, it's not near around to give some training. So this information needs to be in front of us immediately. Long and costly sales cycles and employee efficiency, of course. The first time rate growing of success, and safety. We have to make them feel safe. They need to have the right equipment, and of course, having the right information so they don't make a mistake and not only affect the business, but first of all, affect themselves. And this is important because when you think of a solution, an extended reality solution, maybe we think about something enjoyable, fun, like a game, something that we can make like Mario Kart, their augmented reality circuit, right? Something enjoyable and fun that we can share with all the family. But in the case of our industrial organizations, 75% of our workers are on the front line, and they need that information in a way that they can interact with it securely, and they can make things faster and efficiently, okay? More efficiently. What I always say to people, not only the people that are our customers, not only people in the industrial world, is that sometimes we have elements in front of us that makes 0 sense to us, right? We see this image and we can find anything. It's really a very sterile area, and not many things can be taken advantage of, right? However, if we have sensors, if we have PLCs, if we have databases on which we have the behavior of these machines, of these assets, we could create a digital environment on which we can take advantage of that information and place it in front of us so we can interact with it. and see information real time, solve issues that are appearing in front of me at the moment I'm looking at that information. And all those things, the digital menus, the information that I'm connecting, the interface that you're looking at here, comprise an augmented reality solution. And what's the purpose of it? Connecting the workers with the critical information. It will allow the superposition of digital information directly to the real world, reducing the cognitive load, the heavy task of going into the computer, look at the information, then going back to solve the issue and see that all things have changed. Now we have different data, we have a different behavior, and this causes a high stress for our workers. And we try to improve work efficiency and accuracy. I'm not telling you this just as an anecdote, right? The value is clear. There are numbers that are showing us that industries are betting on these kind of technologies. It's a value of AR. It's here. In 2021, 65% of application focused on industrial use cases were made with augmented reality, right? We're expecting to have for next year 1.73 billion AR mobile users. And this is augmenting, this is growing exponentially, right? And the AR implementations allow our people, our organizations, and our customers reduce the cost, improving productivity, reducing repeat visits, and reducing travel time that will impact in the business and how we take advantage of our own operators and engineers, and they can make the work more efficient. The AR market is projected to be over 80 billion by this year. And of course, this is not only for use cases that our customers are creating or we're helping them create for in our personal case. But for example, we do use some augmented reality solutions for some of our products, from some of our MCCs, from some of our support, teams. They use some remote assistance AR technology for our customers. This is a value that we try to push forward and see and make our customers see that not only they can benefit, but we are benefiting to help them be better, right? So at the end, we're connecting frontline workers with critical information. We guide them through tasks, keeping the worker safe and in compliance, of course, all related on how can we see that information, if it's with a mobile device, if it's with a pair of eyewear glasses, so they can take a look at that technology. They could enable interaction with the system in context, having the elements, the physical elements in front of them, and helping them visualize critical information. So we're moving from traditional methods to augmented reality elements, mixed reality, augmented reality, the way we interact with information, and how can we see that data in front of us in real time and update it all the time. If we have a unique repository of information, we can update it, and this will propagate into all our devices, into all our teams, in order to benefit them from the real-time updated information. So when you create or you're considering to create or implement some use cases, we need to consider how can we apply it into the real world, or our teams, or our classmates, or whatnot. We could do some remote assistance and collaboration. We could do some knowledge-based AR work instructions. We can do CAD-based AR work instructions. We can create tailored AR experiences with 3D and IoT. And we can do AR product visualization and demonstrations. The thing is, all digital information is different. We could have some numbers, but we could have some CAD models. We could have some images, videos, and elements that we capture real time when we do a task. And all those things need to be considered when choosing the right augmented reality solution, right? So I would like to make that technology my closest friend. In this case, we can see technologies like remote assistance and collaboration. The base of this solution is basically, when considering these kind of solutions, is like having a video call, but using augmented reality to create digital marks that stick into the environment, so we can follow instructions when having a call with the expert, right? So how can this be done? We start a conversation. We can see the view of the people who's asking for help. This person scans the environment around him or around her. And finally, they could start placing marks in the machine or in the process that they're trying to resolve. As you can see in the video, there's no audio. I will try to describe everything that we're looking at the videos. We're placing these marks, and even if the operator moves around, the marks will stick there. And at the end, you will have a documentation because the same system will capture the images of each mark you made. So you can have a follow-up of what we did during the call and how can we take advantage of it to share this information, to share this knowledge, and have an acknowledgement that the procedure was completed, right? The way you identify how these could be placed during across the value chain, the value chain is through the use cases, right? The key use cases, that is basically support, remote support for a person who's not there but who has the knowledge, and I can share that knowledge without being there. Take some 30 minutes of my time having this conversation with the people, with this person, and then follow the instructions so they can solve the issue instead of waiting for you, right? If you're the expert and 2 days have passed and the issue persists, right? We need to avoid that. The element that I was showing you, the valve and the pump and whatnot, having information, digital information in front of you, interactive information that you could show through a series of images, labels, text, gauges, digital gauges that connect to real-time information. This is a solution, or you need to consider that there are solutions on which you create the experience from scratch. The difference from this solution to some others on which you use a lot of programming and a lot of code is that this in an industrial environment will benefit the user because they don't need to create the icon or the app from scratch or a lot of coding. There are solutions that are only drag and drop to place that media, that information, to benefit them. And there's some use cases that we're looking at here, like the guided instructions for the line, that it's the first video. In the middle, we have the product familiarization and parts ID, for example, on which we can have an X-ray view of the elements within that pump and start looking at this information for training or for new hires, for example, and customer self-service instructions on which we can, scan the environment and then moving through some instructions, arrows, so the user can look at their task and do the real-time information from the area on which he's working or she's working, right? So these are just some examples of how can we create these from scratch. There's a solution on which you have a blank canvas, and the only thing you need to do is do some binding, some information, dragging the specific widgets to place cat bottles or a 3D label or a 3D gauge to connect real-time data. So we can publish it and see it in a specific library of experiences, right? With only one application, we can access our library of experiences and choose the use case related to my team or related to the training I need to do, right? So how do we activate this information? We can activate them, placing them on a horizontal surface. We can activate them through a barcode. We could activate it through a specific image from our organization, maybe the college logo, for example, maybe the Rockwell logo or whatnot, or maybe if you scan your surroundings, you will activate that experience when you're in front of those surroundings. That you can work with it. These are some use cases for this solution. This solution allows me to be creative and start building my AR experience from scratch without the need of a lot of coding, right? So the next one would be knowledge capture. what if I don't have enough CAD models, or I don't need to do animations or sequences? What if the only thing I have is the expert? So what if the expert could capture some information through videos and images, write some instructions, and then with the help of a pair of eyewear glasses or maybe my cell phone, I could move around and see what are the instructions that the expert capture, right? Some other things, if I'm using an eyewear that can place me or do a geolocation, I could have some guiding into which workstation I need to move next to finish my task. Some of the things that we can see here, for example, for medical devices or the life sciences industries, is how can we use this eyewear, like the HoloLens, uh, see what the expert captured, and move around my environment to follow the next instruction. So we have some instructions that the expert just wrote. He placed some videos and images associated with each step, and make the solution identify each step with a series of voice commands: next step, pause, etc., etc. And finally, when I finish one step, I can move into the next workstation, and the same solution will guide me through it. There are so many things that we can capture here, or take pictures, or have a feedback of what I'm doing in order to better place my information and be safe on what I do without being too distracted, right? If I want the instructions to follow me, then I will have it in front of me. But I can place it just in one area, so I can focus on what I'm doing. But if I have any doubts, I can look at the interface and start working. This could be done in many devices. Sorry, we could do it with a tablet. We could do it with some eyewear like the HoloLens. We could do it with RealWear for a 2D experience, and there are a lot of differences on the way we work with these solutions. What I mean is, if I'm not in the right environment to use glasses, or I'm not in the right environment to use some mobile device, then we need to consider that our AR solution needs to be flexible. Our AR solution needs to be versatile in order for the user to feel comfortable on what he's seeing, but also what he needs to use to see that information. And this is a great example. I'm following the instructions, but using different mobile devices. Also, considering the way we can acquire a pair of HoloLens or a pair of RealWear, that versatility helps us use elements that our team already have, right? Like a cell phone, a tablet, etc., and take advantage of it to see that augmented reality technology, the solution. Sorry. These are some use cases, and as I was telling you, why am I showing these value chain use cases? The videos are really exciting, right? But just having the technology for the sake of having the technology, sometimes it's not very useful. If we focus that energy, as I was telling you, that energy, that benefits of the technology into use cases or areas of opportunity for our teams, then we're moving to the right way of digital transformation, because this impacts on how we take advantage of it, how it benefits our businesses, and how it impacts the costs, right? So this is something that we need to consider every time. And if you have any doubts of more use cases, please let me know. I will be glad to guide you through it. And finally, for augmented reality, also the quality inspections based on CAD models, but not heavily based on the CAD modeling, but placing that as a base for the area on which you're going to work. We could do some procedures on which we will scan the physical object, but because of the 3D CAD element that we used, we can place some points of interest and do some inspections, or maybe an assembly, or the way something was built, or the way we need to place some cables or parts of a machine, so we can have a pass or fail, or an acknowledge that the things were done right. In this case, this is a pre-built solution. We don't need to create the interface or whatnot. These elements already exist in order for the user to follow instructions and see the quality inspection elements that need to be considered for the task to be finished correctly. The thing here is that the same user could benefit from having a feedback. That means the user can see the inspection. If something's not right or is not exactly the way the instructions is telling him, they can have some feedback, write some comments, take a picture and say, you know what, we need to check this because you're saying this in the instructions, but I saw this live, so we need to correct it. And some other things that can be done with quality inspections, or we need to consider for an AR solution, is that we need to have a documentation, information that tells me which person did what, how long it took for that person to finish that procedure, how long it took to make a specific step from that procedure, etc., etc. This kind of analytics or trends will help me make more efficient the way we did these inspections, or how can we change the way people interact with these inspections to make them feel safe or more efficient, right? So this is another one of the benefits from this, for example, is that we try to mix augmented reality solutions with artificial intelligence solutions. So if maybe something is out of place, not only I can share the feedback, but that the same system will tell me, you know what, this needs to be placed or this needs to be closed so we can have a successful quality inspection procedure. These are some use cases across the value chain, incoming part inspections, field maintenance inspections, upskilling and training, etc. And this needs to be considered in many areas of a value chain of our industry, right? And not only that, as I was telling you, maybe I'm always heavily influenced for augmented reality, but in the case of Rockwell automation, we need to consider that sometimes we need to make everything virtual. We need to feel secure in a controlled way. So when we take a step into the real area, into the real world, and start doing some commissioning or start doing some implementation of a plant, we are certain that all the virtual simulations were successful and they didn't have any errors. So in this case, we're pushing, for example, virtual reality technology to consider the digital twins, right? A virtual model of a process that we can use it to improve the design of the commissioning, the operation phases of a project. And as I was telling you about percentages and whatnot of augmented reality, by 2021, half of large industrial companies will use digital twins, or they're moving to digital twins, resulting in 10% improvement of effectiveness or the way they do things. So for this digital engineering using virtual reality for commissioning, we could do a throughput analysis, we could do some machine prototyping, and operator training systems. By using real information or elements that we already have, and some consideration of how the machines move, how can we place elements into a specific area, and some other elements that are moved or created or simulated with real considerations, right? So some of the things we do, or the primary applications we specialize in for virtual reality, are material handling, packaging, CPG, and machine builders, right? What do we do with it? We can create, we can take advantage of CAD models, place the elements from a line, the way they move or the way they behave in the real world as well. Once we create or use the standard catalogs to create models, model elements, we can connect. That this would be the next step, that we can communicate with the tags from our PLCs, connect our models, and see the tags reacting to the way we place and create those models, and do some testing of the line using that real-time information, that real information from a project, in order to figure out if what we're doing is correct or what changes need to be made to avoid any catastrophic failures or catastrophic issues, right? All those things look very cool in the computer, but at the end, all those training on how we did things can be placed into a virtual reality environment. So they will have some, our operators, engineers will have a virtual reality training. They will look at how the line is behaving according of the modeling we did before. And we could do cost-effective procedures, cost-effective trainings that will be updated and replaced and uh, saved into a unique repository. So they can consult it anytime they want, or consult it anytime a new hire needs to familiarize himself or herself into the industrial environment they're starting to work in. Right. So this is an example of what the person is looking with their virtual reality elements, their devices, so they can follow instructions in a safe way, in a secure manner, and eventually they will move into the real environment so they can finish the work in an appropriate way. Right. So just to finish, let's consider that the innovation is here. The innovation, it's moving and evolving, and we as Rockwell, specifically in experience of the company, we have some partners and some strategies with the best, one of the best, or trying to work with always the best companies and the best partners to offer some projects or helping our customers as consultants to choose the best technology, or showing them the benefits of augmented reality and virtual reality for commissioning, for training, for knowledge capture, for knowledge sharing, etc. So if you move forward into a project, you need to consider as well flexibility and versatility, and take in consideration that there are a lot of opportunities to help show the great potential that augmented reality can share, not only as the industrial organization, but you as students as teachers, professors. There are elements that we can take advantage for our own benefit as well. So just to summarize this presentation, we can address increasing product and process complexity with augmented reality. We can improve workforce safety, efficiency, and accuracy. We can reduce cost and improve operational efficiency, and we can enhance customer experiences. All these on the way we can be more efficient on the way we interact with information, and the way the information can work for us and make more intelligent and faster decisions. Okay? So if you want to be as happy as this character here, if you want to have all these use cases to be benefited for all these use cases, then come along with the augmented reality solutions, whatever they are, and find that when identifying a specific use case, all these benefits will present themselves basically. So thank you so much. Thank you so much to everyone, and I hope you find this very interesting, and there's a lot more information in this conversation today, so I hope you enjoy it. But for myself, it's all I have for you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hector. Wow, great presentation, very powerful. I did enjoy all of your animations and your videos, by the way, so yes, great overview and detail information on the digital transformation. I think you hit a lot of the talking points that we have internally here. So again, thank you very much. We will save our questions here for the end, but again, thank you. Emmy.
Thank you, Jason.
You're welcome. Emmy, can you hear me?
Yes.
And we can hear you. Yes.
Awesome.
If you would go ahead and introduce yourself and go ahead, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Emmy Darkowski, and I'm here to teach you a little bit more about how these extended reality technologies are fitting into the world of Gen Z. So we have all experienced some of the most unique years of history. Years where creativity has never been more important, depending on technology to connect literally everyone and everywhere around us. And virtual and extended realities are some of the technologies that are trending across the workforce and helping Gen Z use their creativity to transform what is possible, both in the classroom and in their future careers. So with the first smartphone coming out in the mid-1990s, Gen Z was the first generation that has had technology embedded into their lives from the beginning, making us the quote unquote digital natives. And by 2025, we're going to make up about 27% of the workforce. So what does the workforce need to know about us as we enter this new era of our lives? Mainly a big thing is having an open mindset with everything from social issues like climate change to focusing on collaborative learning. Our constantly changing culture, especially with COVID and all of these new technologies, has led our generation specifically to thrive a lot in fast-paced, ever-changing environments. So at the beginning of my education journey, this was the technology that I was super pumped about using in my class. A projector where you were using a clear sheet of plastic paper and a marker to make a visual presentation. And as I was walking through the halls of my university at Michigan State, I had to take a second to realize that at our new STEM building, there were classes that looked like this, with virtual reality goggles on and everybody around them using it. And that in my engineering college, actually virtual reality lectures are taking place right now to teach things like environmental design. So going from this to this in 15 short years, how can we make sure that this technology is actually being used to its full potential when the possibilities really seem endless from the start? And I think that the key here lies in real goal setting, making sure that we're using this new, shiny, exciting technology to solve struggles of learning today. 65% of Gen Z students are visual learners. And with XR, this is making this learning experience more hands-on and effective than ever before, allowing students to dive into complex topics right at their fingertips in front of them. This means exploration of things that we've never had access to before. Things like being able to blow up a microscopic atom to the sides of your desk, or viewing internal body structures, being able to interact with those shown in real life proportions. This technology is making resources like this and other really rare off-campus resources more accessible to students than ever before. Imagine bringing your students on field trips around the world from any time in history, being able to explore the catacombs in Paris, or allowing eyes into some of the most unique artifacts in Smithsonian museums that there are today. But what I see as one of the main ways that XR is helping here is by transforming what safe, hands-on training looks like. And Hector really gave some great examples of that. Without having to worry about what harmful chemicals you are using in a lab, or how you would handle a difficult scenario in an operating room or in a factory, this technology is letting people come as close to the real thing as possible, perfecting their skills before they enter the workforce. But like I said, my education didn't look like this, with extended reality all nice and shiny and pretty. So, as many of you are probably saying right now, so why should you care about this extended reality market before entering the workforce? And take it from me, since I started my professional career my sophomore year in college, AR and VR have been at the complete center of focus. So this November, I was actually shown this automation fair part on the left-hand side. I was tasked with giving virtual reality tours of Rockwell's actual working assembly line in Milwaukee, which was one of the really big highlights of the fair, which I was super lucky to be able to work. My other first internship, which was in the middle, was actually building out a business plan and marketing strategy for an augmented reality application called ProViz. And my other internship at Vertiv, a data center manufacturing company, is also giving their customers now an app to view more about the rack enclosures I worked on, shown on the right. In my experience of entering this workforce in all of these different examples, with just a tiny sliver of knowledge about AR and VR, it's not going to be uncommon as Gen Z moves into their careers. The extended reality market was $35 billion in 2022. And it is projected to hit $346 billion by 2030. Just let that sink in for a second. Clearly, there is extreme potential and investment happening in this space. So actually, in December, I was able to work in Cleveland at a manufacturing plant. And something that an employee told me is that what keeps them up at night, looking around the plant floor, is seeing mostly retirement age employees. And how are they going to get these new workforce employees excited about working in an area where it really isn't as favorable to them out of the gate? And I think that AR answers a really good amount of these questions. It actually leads to a 94% higher conversation rate off the get-go. But where the underlying problem is here is that there's a very large skills gap being formed between this last generation and Gen Z. And with XR, it is helping take the knowledge out of these previous workers' heads and put it right into Gen Z's hands. Training employees with this new technology is bringing much more accuracy to task and is bringing the computer's eyes right onto the plant floor with your workers. So with Gen Z, why specifically is this focus important? Education as we know it today leads students to explore studies with real-world problems and projects, which is great. Super happy about that. I've gotten to experience really unique projects that have really opened my eyes to the world's markets. But with the addition of XR, now these students can learn from resources all over the world and sharpen their skills before they even step foot into their careers. But at the absolute core in introducing these students to this technology is because it is not going away. Companies are competing in a new space where you could be an early leader. And seeing examples of this technology before you enter the workforce is allowing people to view new industries and applications where this technology can be used in the future. I've included a few resources for you to keep the XR conversation going and learn more about how you could apply these in your future careers. Mindspring and PTC are both really innovative, great companies focused on pushing AR into new industries throughout the world. Their blogs have a ton of great info and examples to keep you really inspired and up to date with all things XR. As well as LinkedIn, it is a great resource for exploring new innovative companies and speakers. Following hashtags is a great way to keep up with this. I did mention Michigan State University today. This is a place that is very close to my heart. I just graduated here last spring, and I would just like to say there was some horrific events that happened last night, and the Spartan community is here to support you and go green. But as our creativity gives us things like the light bulb, the internet, and the whole reason we are here today on Microsoft Teams, the real future of this technology in XR lies in the hands of Gen Z. So use your creativity to find out more about what is possible within the classroom and in beyond in your careers. Thank you.
Thank you, Emmy. Yes, Gen Z, right? I like the picture of the old overhead projector. I remember that as well, so that dates me a little bit. But yes, these new technologies and students and new employees, what a great way to engage, right? The next generation with technology. We find the same thing here at NWTC. students walk past some of our AR, VR labs, and they're looking in the windows and they want to know what's going on. And then when you actually get them to experience it, it's just something that they remember forever. So thank you very much. Our thoughts here in Wisconsin are also with your colleagues in Michigan State.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Casey, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
I sure can. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
If you would tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Myron.
Yeah, of course. Let me share my screen. So a little bit about Myron. We are a general contractor here in the central Wisconsin area. We have about 6 offices in Wisconsin, 1 office in Iowa, and I work in the virtual construction department for the last 5 years in the industry. In the industry as a whole, I've worked in virtual construction for about 7.5 years. So throughout my time, I've touched a lot of technology, and one of the technologies that we use here at Myron is the HoloLens, the iPad with augmented reality, and then VR, virtual reality. So I kind of want to give a background on how we're using that here at Myron. So to have backstory on why we're using this technology, part of the virtual construction department, we do a lot of coordination, which is bringing the subcontractors, the experts. So you got your mechanical subcontractor, your electrical subcontractor, your architect, engineers, all those key players that happen behind the scenes, all in a virtual setting. So what we do, we bring in the models in a 3D environment, and we look through all the models and try to find issues. Because if there's an issue in the model, there's going to be an issue on site, and we don't want that. So we try to help the field by capturing those issues ahead of time and resolving it in a virtual setting, and then clearing it up and then sending it to the field with a clash-free plans. So we have weekly meetings with that core team to go through all of these issues. So essentially, we're saving time, money, and waste. So we do a lot of time and coordination in the virtual setting, but how are we getting that information to the field so they are installing to our coordination efforts? Well, one of those things that we do, we use virtual reality. So virtual reality, right away, everyone thinks it's a video game platform, but in virtual construction and construction in general, we're using it in pre-construction. So before a shovel hits the ground, we're finding issues in that virtual setting. Again, bringing all those key players in that virtual world. So you can see our little avatars are right here, and we're looking at issues and how to resolve them inside the model. You can see my colleague down here, Matt. He's in a virtual meeting inside VR with the architect who lives out in New Hampshire. So this is a way for us to collaborate and coordinate without having to travel far. After we're done with coordination, we have the subcontractors reissue drawings for the field. So again, they are installing to our coordination efforts. So basically, we have all this new set of plans that we're sending out to the field. And again, we want to make sure they are taking our efforts and bringing it to the field. And again, the way we can ensure that's going to happen is with technology. So we do something called install verification here at Myron. One of the technologies that we use, I already mentioned, is the HoloLens. We can bring augmented reality to overlay the coordinated model in a real-world environment to make sure those MEPs are being installed correctly in the right location. So this holds accountability and then verification that everything that we're doing behind the scenes in that virtual setting is also being translated to the physical world. So we do most of it in HoloLens, but we can also do an iPad because iPad is more accessible these days. And with the latest iPad improvements with LiDAR built in, we're able to do augmented reality with that. So here's a little screenshot of what that looks like in the HoloLens. Again, we can bring that coordinated model into that physical environment, and we can ensure that everything is being installed correctly. So in this screenshot, you can see that we have a hanger placed right here. That is real world. And then we have this red pipe right here, which is a fire line that is sitting snugly on that hanger. So this assures me that this is going to be installed correctly. If we look further down, we have all these core holes for all the piping and ductwork. You can see the model right here is going through those core elements. So again, we're holding accountability to our subcontractors after our coordination efforts. And then we can also use it with the iPad. So my colleague here, Sam, is walking through the site and looking at drain pipes to make sure that the equipment that will be sitting on top of it is going to hit those drain pipes. So before we pour the concrete and insert the sleeves, we have it marked up on the real world setting. He's using the model and using the transparency to overlay the digital world over the physical world. So how do we make sure that our subcontractors are holding accountability when we do find an issue? Well, we do something called install verification reports. So we take screenshots, whether that's off the iPad or the HoloLens, and then we showcase what is going on that we're seeing versus what the real world setting is seeing. And then we send it to all stakeholders to show that subcontractor XYZ, we need to adjust this, or how is this going to affect down the line, a domino effect, if you have it installed. So then right here, here's a good example. We have a standpipe that's coordinated here, right here, but in the actual setting, the standpipe is a little bit bigger, but in further down the line, you can see it's higher in elevation. We noticed that it was going to hit a piece of pipe further down the line. So this was something that we were able to catch. And then we were able to talk to both subcontractors involved in this issue, and we were able to adjust it ahead of time prior to them going on site and installing. And then same thing with the HoloLens. We can do the same thing by taking screenshots, talking about what we're seeing, and then sending it out to all stakeholders that are involved with the issue. So all in all, we have many technology tools, but one of the things that we are using here at Myron, augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality. So with the HoloLens, the iPad, and the VR headset, we're able to collaborate more. We're able to catch things easier before things are installed. And then we're able to save money, save time on the schedule. Construction schedules are continuing to get tighter and tighter. And with the use of technology, we're able to help that schedule out. And then we're also reducing waste. So in the old times, you're taking a tape measure and you are measuring off the design intent, but oftentimes the design intent doesn't capture everything. So then they're constantly taking down equipment, pipes, ductwork, and then reinstalling, ordering new pieces if there is a conflict. So that's kind of in a nutshell how we are using virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality at Myron Construction.
Great, thank you, Casey. Also coming from the construction industry, I appreciate all of your images as well. I remember drawing on AutoCAD R13, completely two-dimensional, right? Now that's probably 20 years ago, but what a long ways the industry has come as well. I see a lot of correlations between what Emmy and Hector were saying too, when we talk about new employees, right? Helping new employees visualize how a particular process needs to be done. On the construction industry, I see it the same way, working with building owners, right? Folks that don't normally take that blueprint and make it into a 3D render type of image. What a great way to allow potential building owners and investors to see what that end product is going to look like, as you mentioned, before a shovel even goes in the ground. So just wonderful. We do have one question. I think I'll take that right now. How has your customers at Myron, how have they reacted to utilizing augmented and virtual reality? Is it something that they've found and really are interested in, or does it turn out to be something that's too much, or what's the feedback there?
So it's not one-sided at all. It's two different spectrums. You get, so construction, you have a wide range of generations working on a site. So you get the older generation, which is the old saying, teach an old dog new tricks, is not as easy as it sounds. So they are like, well, back in my day, I've used paper and tape measure and I was still able to get the job done. So how are you helping me? But it's as soon as they get the technology in their hands and they see the benefit, it's an instant light bulb for them. And now every single project, they're coming to me and like, remember that last time you brought the technology out? Can you do it again for this project? So it's a little bit of push to get them there, but as soon as they see the benefit and how it can make their job easier, because that's the point of what we do. We want to make sure the field is making efficient progress. So as soon as they see that, they're requesting VC to be part of every single project. So at first, it's not initial buy-in. It's a little bit of let me show you, let me show you, let me show you until they cave a little bit. And then as soon as they do, it's been positive feedback.
Great. That's wonderful to hear. Well, thank you again, Casey.
Yes, thank you.
Yep, great job. Mike Race, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you.
Well, welcome, Mike. Mike is actually an NWTC employee here along with me. We are both part of the Industry 4.0 development team. I work a lot on the augmented and virtual reality side, and Mike works a lot on the IIT side. So, Mike, I'll let you give some more details on what you do here at NWTC, but go ahead.
All right, yeah. So I've been here for about 2 years, and NWTC is really focused on the Industry 4.0 initiative. And so I pretty much am on the IT side. I help support all the technologies from IoT, AR, VR, AI, and those type of things. So what I have today is actually a video that I'll talk through, and it's going to be about Microsoft Guides. And it's one of the softwares that we use with the HoloLens to make guides or tutorials, and students actually have been using it for their capstone projects. And this is really preparing them for the workforce, because now they can go to the workforce with this knowledge of this technology, and they might be the ones leading, kind of build off of what Emmy and Hector and everybody's been saying. They're able to kind of lead the way with this technology. So I'm going to share my screen here, and then some of the parts, because with the HoloLens, it gets a little shaky, but you know, it is what it is in the video. So this is just a short overview of some of the files that we can bring in with Microsoft Guides. And I don't like saying the word easy, but the reason why I get so excited about this is because of the process of using the software is easy, comparable to a lot of them. Your main thing is, this is how it's created on the desktop. It's pretty much like an outline flow. As you can see, you create the different steps, and then you go through and you have your different processes, like your rail adjustments, your power on processes. And then let's see. And then here's the overview of the actual step being created. So here's a step, and then you have your 3D parts, and you can just import all your different 3D parts into here. You can support all kinds of different files, from STLs, FBXs, videos, PDFs, anything. You put them all in here ahead of time, then it makes it simpler to create. The next step, this is just a different kind of step that you can create. You can ask a question, so you can tell it to direct at different areas. So if I click on this one, it might go to step 20 or so on. It's just an example of, you can kind of make it complex or as simple as you would like. But it's kind of powerful because you can ask if it's red or blue, select this button. The next part is how it's anchored to the items that we're working on. So if we're working on a 3D printer, we can either have a QR code that anchors the model on there, or you can actually have a 3D model of the object, and it'll anchor all your models around that. So what this is really doing is it's just creating a augmented reality tutorial, and wherever you place the stuff, that's where it's going to stay. And then the next thing that it allows you to do is the analytics part. So for instance, if you have a big, large printing machine, and you got a monthly maintenance guide out there, you can see exactly who did it, when they did it, if it was completed or not, and those type of things. So that's really useful information. So you can kind of always check this and see if it's actually being done or not. Here, I'm doing a tutorial on just a simple one about changing the 3D printing filament. And I'm going in as author mode. So these are where all those slides are going to come in that I created on the computer in the, initially before this. And here I'm using a QR code for my anchor point. And I'm just kind of showing you this process. And this, I think when I first did all this stuff, it might have took me about 30 minutes. So that's about how simple this is to kind of get up and rolling. And then I can place my model there, or not my model, but my guide, and just walks me through it. And you're just going to be going through it like normal. So there's just asking me if the display is on there. You can see I already have a 3D model that I can place somewhere. And so I can just place it there and move it around. And this is just more or less just to get the user's attention. So if they have a question about changing the filament of this printer, they always can throw on the HoloLens, open up this guide and go through it. And these, wherever we're putting here, only the author is allowed to move things actually. So when the operator comes in, they can't move any of these objects. So you don't have to worry about them getting mixed up or messed up or those type of things. But yeah, you just kind of move those around. And then they'll just be there for pretty much ever. Some of this stuff I'm just going to let us watch the process of how simple it is to move around these things. So this is an arrow. You can create it different sizes, bigger, smaller, different colors, you name it. And plus, like I said, you can bring in your own models too. So if you have a certain part, so if you want to replace the extruder or something like that, you can actually move it into place or move the little bolts into place. It's really as easy or as complex as you want to get it. You can bring in all kinds of things. And it's one of those things too that's why I like to show videos, is because a lot of times photos, it's hard to see. It's like, oh yeah, it's just a hand sitting there. But this really kind of gets you the feel of the depth perception and those type of things. Because I think here I can put the hand like behind the device. Ahead a little bit here, and then here's the different styles. So you have like warnings and those type of things just to make the hands look different, or the different models. Go ahead a little bit. Great. All right, so here, I'll back up a little bit. So next, we have this line in our tech hall. And I don't know all the manufacturing terms, so forgive me if I say something goofy. But yeah, it's a main line. And we basically did a tutorial on how to use this machine. And I didn't know anything about this machine. I just had an instructor kind of walk me through quickly. So I was like, okay, I can do that. So here I had to make sure the main power was on. And if I was new to this place, I wouldn't know what to do. I'd be like, well, where's the main power? But here, there's really no question where the power is. You know, you got to go over here and make sure that's on. So that helps a lot because that saves maybe 15, 20 minutes of time for him to, or the person to find a new or somebody that knows and ask that question. Then next, you know, make sure the power switch is on here. Again, this makes you're not going to second guess yourself. You know that that's where you got to do. So this all reduces your training time and you know, your turnover training, and it increases the user's confidence because they're getting this, they know where to find the information. Yeah, and this is in right now, before I was in author mode and now I'm in operator mode. So as you can see, I can't move any of these models and it's all hands free. So wherever my head's looking, that little white dot is what's doing all my selections. So that's nice because you always have both hands available to use. So I always think if you're like under a car or something like that. And here again, here's just kind of an example of some of the models we have in here. So we have a PDF. Up here we have a FBX file, which is pretty detailed that you can bring into there. And I think we're gonna have a web page. So a web page kind of opens the door for live data and those type of things because you can go in here and check things. So say if you're on step 2 and it says update the spreadsheet or update this, you know, having it linked with your OneDrive, you'll be able to update any data you want or check any web supported IoT interface that you would need to at that point. So say if you had to check the temperature to some bearings or something like that. And then lastly, we had a partnership with EMT as a printing company in Green Bay here. And we were working with them about the remote assist, the Microsoft Guides remote assist. That's where you can remotely help customers. And we started working on guides together. So I went there for the day and just did a couple of guides for some of their printing machines. So I just wanted to share this one because it's pretty neat to actually be out in the workforce and this company's using it, and so it's pretty nice. You know, instead of just having a tutorial for the user to change the printer, now they can send this out and, you know, show them exactly where to go and what they're looking for. Because sometimes the terminology is different with different devices, so they might not know exactly what they're talking about. But yeah, that's really all I have for the Microsoft Guides part. But you know, like everybody has said, is, you know, this is really preparing the students for the workforce and getting them ready. And that's what we're finding with a lot of our companies that we've been talking to, is they want their students not that necessarily, or their new employees not necessarily be experts in it, but at least have hands-on and have, you know, and understand the technology to be able to use it. But yeah, that's all I really have. If you guys have any questions, you know, let me know.
Great, Mike. Thank you. Again, what another great use of technology, right? I think we're seeing a couple reoccurring themes here with all of our presenters today. The skills gap, right? So we see it on both an employee side, and we're definitely recognizing it here as a learning tool, right? Being able to take that technology and help people see and understand really what maybe the problem or the issue is in a daily type of environment. So definitely, folks, thank you again, Mike. If anybody has any questions this time, please put them into the Q&A. I would certainly like to share them out to the panelists. We do have one question for Casey from Myron. Do you see a margin of error between the AR and VR reality and the real world? So I think the question is between the models that we're creating and the actual real world environment. What's the tolerance there? Do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, so we have noticed that we use QR codes that are coordinate specific, and as soon as we scan it and we look around those area and we drift away from that QR code, the model also drifts. So we have noticed that there is a slight margin of error. So how do we accommodate that? Well, basically, we add more QR codes with more coordinates. So we do every 30 increment QR codes of a certain space if we need to really look into it. And that way, once we're done looking at that 30-foot radius, then we move on to the next QR code, scan it, and then look again. So then that margin of error is significantly smaller than if you only had one QR code and you're looking at a larger space.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so it basically re-anchors itself and kind of realigns everything as you kind of move along.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great point. Great question. Thank you for that. And thank you, Casey. Hector, there's a question here. Do you see any region, either globally or within the USA, that has been adopting the AR/VR applications more in Mexico or the southern part of the US, East Coast, West Coast? So the question is, do you see any geographically, are there parts globally or within the United States or Mexico that are adopting this technology faster than other areas?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Thank you, Jason. Well, in the case of Mexico, I've been seeing some companies in the center of our country that they're adapting these technologies to their processes. Specifically, I've been working with a lot of mining customers that have been creating some experiences with AR technologies in order to complete some maintenance and training procedures. In the case of the USA, I wouldn't say that I know the regions, but I could tell you about the industries. Basically, pharma and automotive, we've been seeing some adapting AR technologies. We have a really interesting medical procedures and devices use case from a big pharma company that they've been using AR technologies for this purpose.
Cool, interesting. Yeah, I know here in the Midwest, some may say that, the Midwest is a little slower to adopt. Some of my peers have said that, the East Coast and the West Coast, from the construction side, maybe Casey, you know a little bit more too, you're starting to see it more per specification, right? It's actually part of the contract that you have a virtual reality type of experience for a building owner. So I think it is definitely moving quickly in some areas, and some areas are right behind. So excellent. From a skills gap for all panelists, a couple questions I have, kind of similar to the building owner question that Casey had taken. For new employees, what is some of the feedback that we're getting from our new employees when we see them experience maybe an augmented reality tutorial on how to do a procedure or replace a bearing? What's the feedback? Are they saying, this is something great that we should have a larger library of? Are they saying, is it something that helps, but maybe isn't the answer to all? Does anybody have any impact or statements on some of that new employee feedback using AR/VR?
So just like to add that's why I find really appealing the way we use AR, because this is like a transition, right? Sometimes it's difficult to adapt to these technologies and said I'm only going to base all my procedures in a virtual way. So if I have something to anchor myself to the reality, just so to speak, I could do this transition to be able to use maybe a printed manual to something that it's a whole virtual environment to train. But yes, it's a procedure process that needs to be considered, because sometimes it's difficult to adapt to the technology.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple more questions here. Let me get to them. Emmy, as you're working with Gen Z and AR/VR, have you seen this as an opportunity for younger technicians and engineers to gain credibility and help teach others, some of their colleagues, about these technologies? So I guess how are the Gen Zers taking on this, and are they sharing it out internally at your organizations?
Yeah, so my experience, like I shared, every one of my companies that I've worked for has been very in tune with what this technology is moving towards. Specifically at Rockwell, so far, I have not had a super in-depth touch with the augmented virtual reality market, but my experience so far as a person who is going through the training program, as well as some of the technicians and engineers that are going to be taking part in this, as they're going through their training, I do see this as a really great opportunity for this technology to be implemented. And I think what Gen Z is really bringing to this is an open mindset to learn. As when I was working at Automation Fair and being able to share with some of our companies and with people who were attending the fair, including students, I find that the younger demographic has a very open mindset to the possibilities of what is possible here. And so I do think in the future, as they are adopting some of this technology earlier on in their career and through their education, that they'll be able to have more of these teaching moments. But I think that this is a really good learning time for companies to take advantage of that open mindset of Gen Z and kind of take that on into different roles within the company.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Casey, one for Myron here. Is there a level of skill set needed for your internal ITIS department? What would be some of the hurdles for the ITIS department, such as server sizes, etc.?
So I don't know much about the IT department. We're pretty much separate from that, but we do work closely with them on the server and everything. And here at Myron Construction, they do not shy away from technology or the needs of technology. So if there's something that we need to provide to make our job efficient or the field efficient, Myron is pretty generous when it comes to that. So I guess I can't really answer the question about what are some hurdles in the IT department because I'm not involved in that too much. So if you want more direction, I can definitely reach out to someone in IT and pass that information along.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Anonymous, one additional comment here in question. Mike, great videos for the printer manufacturer. Can other companies get training with NWTC to determine how AR/VR technology such as Microsoft's guides may be helpful?
Yeah, well, Jason might actually be able to help answer this, but I know our corporate training division is, we'll be able to work with them. So if you are interested, maybe we can get them information to, who do we reach out for that, Jason?
I would say start by just sending me an email. And it is something that after this seminar series is complete, we definitely want to start making some additional seminars on how to use AR and VR. So great question. And I would say feel free to email any of us on the NWTC team here, and we can certainly start putting something together. It's certainly content that we want to develop here in our learning plans. So 11 o'clock, I do want to again respect everyone's time. I want to thank our speakers today. Very informative. I enjoyed each of your presentations, so thank you very much. I want to thank the guests that attended today. And if you would, I shared my screen here. I did put in the QR code for the survey, the post-survey, and just our upcoming events. We do have our engineering open house next Tuesday, 2/21 from 4 to 7, where a lot of this augmented and virtual technology, Mike and I and our team will be showcasing some of that right in our trades and engineering atrium. And also on April 11th, it'll be our fourth and final series for additive manufacturing, so 3D printing and how that technology is impacting our industry and our Industry 4.0 members. So again, thank you to all of you for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed our event. I know I certainly did, and take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.